Brad. What's up? All right.
So, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for coming to SacAnime.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's great. New show actually was really popular, so that's good to see.
Yeah, I really didn't expect it to be.
I didn't know what we were getting into. I really didn't. We do a lot of voiceovers at Funimation in Dallas, and so you go in between studios, over the course of 3 and 4 hours, and you never know what you're going to be playing. And then we auditioned for it. I read for a couple different characters, and then they didn't even make a big deal out of it. They were like, hey, they need you for a couple hours on this day. And I walked in the studio and I said, so which character am I playing? They're like, no, you're Goblin Slayer. I was like, well, kind of make a big deal out of it because that's pretty cool to me.
It's like, it's kind of the main character, so.
I mean, the show is named after you.
Yeah, you would think. I was hoping that they would have been as excited as me, but clearly they weren't.
No, because we'll get like a text message just like, hey, can you come in for like 6 hours or whatever for like this person? Like I got a text like, hey, can you come in for 3 hours this day, 3 hours the next day? I was like, okay, who am I playing? I didn't know. She's like, okay, you're Priestess. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Cool.
I'll take it.
So everybody Goblin Slayer fans, right? Good? Yay! All right, cool. All right, we got the right crowd. Good. It's going to get weird for the next 42 minutes.
I mean, this Goblin Slayer's about to get a little weird.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is definitely your guys' panel. They're here to talk to you guys. So by all means, once again, if you have questions, I got Marcos up here with the microphone. So definitely step on up.
Come on up.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Ask away.
Come on.
Rapid fire, gloves off.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I was wondering, throughout the show, which method of slaying the goblins was your favorite?
Wow.
Ooh.
I don't know.
I
like to squish them. I do. I love this. I love that sound that they put in there whenever I just step on their heads.
Oh my God.
But honestly, that sword's pretty cool. I mean, they come up with so many different ways to kill goblins. And when I'm in the studio, sometimes I get affected by it. I'm watching it, and I get caught up, and I forget to do my lines because I'm just watching it. I'm like,
that's so cool.
Oh my God, they're gonna show that? They're gonna do that? Yeah. So they're like, Brad, just do your lines. 3 beeps. Do your lines, please. But yeah, man, I don't know. I like to squish them. I like to step on them and squish them.
Yeah. I don't know if I actually killed any goblins in the show. I can't remember. I think I helped. I did technically in the last episode, I squashed the goblin board.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's fun. You're just a squishy. And I saved one miracle just
there you
for
go.
you.
There you
but
go.
I think it was something because I keep up with the manga because even if I hadn't been cast in this show, I would have gotten into it because I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. But in the manga recently, she hits a goblin with the staff and uses holy light and it just burns to death. I'm like, yes, you're so cool.
When's that scene coming up?
I was like, that's I think it might be in the movie that they're doing because it's that arc that's happening. So I'm like, yay. But yeah, thank you for your request.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being here. My question is, when you guys are doing these, because these are very serious scenes a lot of times, some are a little creepy, but when you do, when you mess up, what's your favorite outtake, blooper that you've done when you're going?
I don't mess up. She does more often than not, so I try to.
Wow, just because I bombed you that couple times.
Look, Hayden, a bus.
Wow. Oh God, I don't know. I think I just kind of stopped. I'm like, well, we're gonna come in for that again.
Yeah. It's the good thing is, our producers and the director on the show, Tabitha, they're fantastic. They really work with us, and they got to understand that we're trapped in this little vocal booth. I mean, it's a little tiny, probably 3 foot by 3 foot booth for 3 and 4 hours.
We're in a padded room.
Yeah. So they work really well with us. They understand. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's we always going for a one take, but there's so much action in the series that there's a lot to it, And then the storylines go pretty deep with these characters. So they understand we're trying to make something cool. We're trying to really get in there and not. When I was doing Power Rangers, it was a lot of it's like you didn't have to really put too much acting into that. But we're trying to create something cool because we realize the storylines are very very deep with the characters.
Yeah.
So
it was very character driven.
Yep.
It's you see everyone grow so much, but I'm like, I think Episode 1 took a lot out of me, just emotionally. Like, that was a heavy episode, just jumping into it. And I was like, all right, so my cheeks hurt from all the clenched teeth reacts that are happening.
Yeah, I've done a lot of anime, and that was one that I just stopped doing my lines. Like when I first saw the first scene, the first cave scene and all that stuff, and I just kind of stopped and watched, and I was like, we're gonna do this. We can do this. I was like, this is gonna be if this sets the tone for the whole series. I was like, this is gonna be intense.
Yeah. It was so fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This feels like a town hall meeting.
It kind of does.
We're gonna get that new park built for you.
That park in the Goblin Cave.
So we all know that Goblin Slayer is like a very, very dark show. So my question is, what's it like to work on a very dark series like Goblin Slayer and such?
I love it. I grew up on like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. I was raised on like dark fantasy, and I was raised playing like tabletop games and stuff like that. So I think it was just really cool, and especially as an actor, it's kind of fun to go there emotionally and just get to like really play up those heavy moments and really grow with a character, because in dark fantasy shows or just darker shows, I find the characters like they have to grow up. So like with Priestess, by the end of the series, she is super tough. Like she's so much stronger than she was in that first goblin encounter, and it was rewarding.
True.
I think working on a show like this is really rewarding.
True. Yeah, and I mean, with Funimation, bouncing in between show after show, and it's, some are quirky. You go work on One Piece, you can come up with every, voice that you can imagine, and it's accepted because it's just kind of quirky, and they want to diversify all the characters. But when you dig into this storyline, as dark as it is, it sucks you in. Like it really just sucks you into the drama, and how dark it can go. So for me, I was hooked because it was so different than every other show that I've done so far. It really sucked me in because of how dark it was going to go. I was literally every episode going, wow, they took it even further, Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the biggest things with Goblin Slayer is that he never shows his face. He's always wearing that helmet. Both from a character point of view and a storytelling point of view, why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, obviously the mystery works. It's like with Mandalorian. It's like, one of those things where just take the helmet off. They're creating that intrigue behind who's the man behind the mask. And truthfully, what face could they have put on Goblin Slayer that would have made it any different? Like, would there wouldn't have really been a right face, right? I mean, even if I think the whole thing would have been a letdown. At the end, you see the back shots, and and I was pretty excited. He's in pretty good shape. I was pretty happy for him.
Pretty hot.
Good, he's representing. But imagine, you can't really put a face with the character. If he took it off, I think any face would have been a letdown. Am I right or wrong? I mean, what would it have been? It'd been such, that's what he looks like. It'd been just, I don't think it could have lived up to the mystique behind the helmet. So that's my opinion, but seems like he was, pretty in shape, good looking dude. So Sword Maiden had it for him. So I was just like, all right.
I'm
He's obviously got something going on.
With Priestess's reaction, like, just like, hey, can you take that off? I wasn't looking.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, that scene. I had to dial back on that scene. I was like, "What is going? Is this a trick?
Episode 8?
What's going on this?"
It's like, oh no, you were resurrected. Nothing happened.
Yeah, is that what we're calling it?
It was,
Got it. Thank you for that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Hi. First, fantastic job on the dub.
Thank you.
Secondly, do you keep up with the light novels, any media that's put out since ending production?
I do. I actually got into the manga even before I found out I was in the show. I watched the first episode with my friend Amanda Gish, who voices Witch in the show. So we're like, okay, well, we're going in for the audition. Let's just watch the episode that's out. And we're both like, this is right up our alley. This is actually a really cool show. So I've been reading the manga since day one, and also just to do like some character building with Priestess as I went on. But I've been keeping up with the manga, not so much the light novels, just because I'm like, my bank account is limited to 1 book a month. Otherwise, I'd buy them all. I live in bookstores. I love them. But I think they're just hitting the Goblin's Crown arc in the manga right now, where it's at, and it's like so good. It's so good. I love watching like where all the characters are now, and I'm like, these are my babies. These are my children's. But yeah, I do keep up.
I default to her. Like, I'll literally ask her questions. I'm like, so where are we at right now? And she'll be like, okay, so here's what's going on. So she digs all into it, and I'm kind of pulling from her knowledge of that. Yeah.
I think it was like right after the commentary. I think during the commentary, I was like, well, in episode 7, this happened.
It was amazing. Like, you came alive in the commentary.
Yeah.
I could barely speak. My voice was just toasted.
So
and you were just like, oh, yeah, because in the manga series, here's what happens. And this is a parallel between these 2 characters. And I'm just like, wow, you know all of this.
Yeah.
You got all this down.
When I love a project I'm on, I'm like, so I'm going to learn everything about this. And Goblin Slayer just like captured my heart. And it's like it was my first major role at Funimation. So I was like, all right, we're going to go all in. All right. And I was like, oh, wait, no, I love this series. We're just going to.
Well, and one that, and I've had, I mean, other roles I would say were pretty big in just in the anime world, but this one was so controversial. That was the thing that when I would mention it to anime friends of mine, that they'd be like, "Oh man, yeah, that's a big show.
Yeah.
Like that's a big show. It's a pretty dark series, you know. Like they're like my friends that knew more about it than I did because we were just like in the first couple episodes. They were like, man, that's a monster. That's a really fun dark series. So,
no, it's super fun.
Yeah. So I was excited to go the whole length with the series.
I want a season 2.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah, we're anxiously awaiting. I'm like, phone, make sure phone's got signal, waiting for Funimation to call us and
Funimation,
give us confirmation.
Please.
Well, hope to hear from you too in your roles
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So other than it being a lead role, what is it about your characters that really makes you enjoy playing them?
What was that last part?
What is it about your characters that really makes you enjoy playing them?
Who?
Go first? Sure. I'm like, there's so much to unpack.
Yes.
Well, like I mentioned, a big thing about Priestess is like her growth throughout the series, but from the very beginning, she had a very strong, like, a want and her goal. She's like, I want to protect people, I want to help people. And I think what was really intriguing for me to play was her whole relationship with Goblin Slayer. Like, from the very beginning, it evolves so beautifully throughout the whole series. They go from sort of like protector and like almost like struggling newbie almost. I'm like, I don't know what to call her. I didn't want to call her a weakling because she can do stuff, just not well. She's a little clumsy in that first episode, just a little bit. But throughout the series, you see them go to almost like a master student. And then by the end of the series, I'd say they're incredibly close friends. And my favorite thing about being an actor is playing with relationships. And relationships between people are so interesting to me. So watching that friendship grow, watching like High Elf Archer and her have like their little moments together as like the girls of the group. And also, I love getting to cast the miracles. I've always, my goal as an actor is I want to play a magical girl really bad. Like,
is that the Dungeons and Dragons part?
I grew up on Sailor Moon, man. I grew up on that, Madoka Magica. Those are my favorite, like some of my favorite shows. And I'm like, I want to have a transformation sequence. I want to cast magic. And so getting to cast the miracles was super fun. And I loved the effect they put on her voice. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm casting spells. I love it. It's like being in a D&D campaign. I love it. But yeah, that was pretty much for me. How about you?
See, it seems like all of Hayden's stuff is fantasy based. It's like everything I've always wanted to do. I want to be a magician. I want to be a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Mine was I just wanted to be everything that I'm not. So he looks really tall. I thought that would be kind of cool to play a tall character. So don't know anything about that. So figured, he has all these women throwing themselves at him. So I was like, that doesn't happen. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. He'd be a kind of a cool guy to play. But no, I thought he seems like the strong, silent type, and I was like how he's just really kind of one note. You know, I'm not a very one note actor. I'm pretty outgoing and I just enjoy being around people. But he seems like just really just one note, kind of chill. Like he keeps everything in check. He doesn't let his emotions get ahead of him. But the way he protects. He's that strong, silent type that protects his inner circle, and he's driven. He's driven by something that haunted him since he was a kid, and I see that focus, and I love that. I was like, I love the character arc of that, how he just stays focused and driven, but he's got his crew with him, and that's his family. Like he doesn't have a family to speak of. That's his family. He inherits this family, whether he wanted it or not. But that became his crew, his clique, and his family. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Fun question.
Okay.
If you were a specific slayer of monsters, what monster would you slay, and what methods would you use to slay those monsters?
Are we talking about goblins or monsters in general? Like any monster?
Monsters in general.
Hayden,
Ooh.
take that one.
Okay. The first thing that came to mind was honestly chimeras, especially like from like Greek mythology, where it's like the different heads of the different animals. I'm like, I don't know what methods I would use, but I'm like, I just think they're like really interesting creatures, and I think it would be cool to be like a slayer of chimeras because there's so many different things that you have to contend with. But I'm like, let's see. Hydras would be cool, but I'm like, fire, duh. You cut off their heads and you burn the stumps so that they can't grow back. Easy, Go old school Hercules on that stuff, or Heracles if we're going to be accurate.
Yeah.
So you would like to be a multi-headed slayer?
Yes.
And I stay on track with goblins. And just, stick with what you know.
Yep.
Club, sword, boot.
Boot.
Keep the status quo.
I'm just gonna get you steel-toed boots next Christmas. Yeah.
Is that it?
Oh.
Yeah.
I can kill other things.
Hello.
What's up?
Hello.
Hey,
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Hello.
I went to the signings already. But, okay. Well, my question was how you kind of get into the mentality of your character, given like this is more an adult-oriented show in comparison to some other like shows you do with Funimation.
How do I get in character?
Yeah.
Or just
or like the mentality, because I think you got to I don't know, but maybe you have to think differently by playing this kind of role than
the difficult part. And I was telling them backstage is because they didn't see when I was in the studio doing my thing. The hard part is no matter how much you got in character to play Goblin Slayer, in order to make, he has the helmet on, so he has to create this sound, and I had to hold a bucket in front of my head the whole time. So this little Christmas decorated like has reindeer and snowmen on this old, I guess they used to put like caramel corn or something in this bucket.
Probably.
And so we'd have to hold the bucket right here, and then when you talk, it kind of takes the resonation out of the bucket and creates this, almost like helmet effect, right?
Okay.
Well, as much character, driven, try to get into your character thing, everything cool I ever did was taken away by that bucket. Everything. I seriously, I felt like they needed to put like a little horse trough or a horse feeder around my neck, because I'm sitting here like this for 3 hours. I'm just holding this damn bucket in front of my head the whole time. So, that would suck. Anything cool I was trying to do, and that bucket would completely steal the scene. But clearly, out of all the technology that's out there, there is no technology that can create the helmet sound of Goblin Slayer other than that Christmas bucket. There's nothing that exists.
What are we gonna do if we lose that bucket?
Someone needs to gift me a new bucket. I want a new,
No. I'll just bring a bucket to you next time I see you in Dallas. For Priestess, it was remembering just her desire to protect people in general and protect those close to her. And it was just like, okay, well, as Priestess, what is my goal? Who am I protecting? And it's just like, if I was like driving in my car, to find her voice, I'd be like, Goblin Slayer. I was like, okay, there she is.
There she is.
There she is. I think I sang a lot of musicals in the car just in her voice. I was like, okay, there we go. But yeah, I was just remembering like what my want was as the character, because knowing what you want as a character, it can bring you through like a whole scene or a whole show. And Priestess was very much, because she's the cleric, really. So she's about like healing and like looking after her party. But she's also kind of a boss. So I was like, she's cool in her own right. But even when like her cool moments, like in episode 12, when she like uses 2 spells instead of 3, she uses 2 and she reserved one because she's like, Goblin Slayer is going to need help. Like, so it was just remembering, that want, essentially. Long way of saying a very short thing.
And I think as much as Goblin Slayer wants to protect his group and protect people from goblins, it's like her character protects him in a sense that I don't even think he's not one of those guys to admit that he needs it.
No.
But she's been there for him several times, which is midnight. I could have died several times.
And he did, actually.
And he brought me back.
Oh yeah, I got you.
There's a couple times where we were filming or doing the voiceover, and I was like, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's you can't come back from that. Like, he's straight up dead. He's dead, right?
Is he dead?
No, he comes
not
back.
Yet.
Sleeps with a virgin. What? What are you guys? What are we doing?
Anime is what we're doing.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You got it.
Not counting the first episode, which one of the episodes spoke to you the most? Like, when you were doing it, which one kind of like struck you, that like pulled you back?
Ooh. 2 different episodes for me. Episode 4 was really fun because Priestess gets to cast like 2 protection spells like back to back, like when the fireballs. And I was like, yo, that's just awesome. I was like, it was when she really kind of started to show her potential as like essentially a magic user. And I'm like, wow, she actually has a lot more control over her abilities than she lets on, or that she even believes herself to have. But a big one for me was episode 7, when my shoulder gets bitten off by the.
How do you know it's episode 7? I would say it's the episode where my shoulder got ripped off, but she knows what episode number it is.
I sure do.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching along like in the Japanese.
Okay.
So I watched them all in the Japanese, like when they would drop on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
At the same time, and I was like, my boyfriend was watching the show as well, and the clip, I think this is why episode 7 stuck with me, is because the clip came out of just my scream, and he texted me, he's like, so this clip made me nauseous. Great job.
Yeah.
But you've scared me off this show. I was like, no, watch it. It's so good. He's like, you're gonna have to give me at least a year.
There are things about your job and what you do at work that I don't want to.
No.
I don't want to know about.
But that episode was super impactful, and it was just super traumatizing for Priestess as a character, because she essentially just watched her best friend die in front of her.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I think I was crying at the end of that episode because I was just so in it, and I was like, all right, cool, great, I love it. He's coming back, right?
I get sucked in. I mean, I appreciated the episode where it shows why he became so, where his hatred for goblins began, and just having to witness that and what he went through as a child to that switch to go off of that never-ending revenge. So I'm glad I got to see that. That was pretty twisted too. But I wanted to see the origin, because to that point I didn't know. They had just told me about it. But to get to visually see it on screen was pretty, affecting. It got me really to where I was starting to get upset. Started to feel what that kid was going through, and going, I could see where that burning desire came from. So the origin story, I was something I was excited to see. But I still, going back to Power Ranger days and VR Troopers, I still like the fights more than anything, And so there would always be these huge goblins, and goblins that are like Goblin Lord, and then this even a bigger version. And eventually it got to a point where I was like, yeah, he can't beat him. He's just way too big. There's no way. And next thing you know, he's strangling him with the hair. Yeah, he's just like, it makes it really tight and everything else. And he punches one in the eye socket, like all the way up to the elbow in the eye socket. I was like, oh man, this guy goes hard. He goes hard. So I get into the action stuff too, but I'm glad I got the origin part so that I can really see where it started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello again.
Hello.
So from the initial drop of the first episode, Scene and Fantasy fans were quick to make comparison to Kenta Miura's Berserk series to Goblin Slayer. Have you seen these comparisons?
I've seen that there are comparisons. I've never seen Berserk. It never really grabbed me. But I understand that it's like they're similar in like dark tone, but I know nothing about Berserk, so I'm like, I can't comment on like how similar.
But that
they
is
are.
something that is going back and forth.
Yeah.
There are people making that
Yes,
connection?
when it comes to the underlying themes, of course, the fantasy setting, the emphasis on trauma and moving forward.
Yeah.
Just want to know your thoughts on it.
The violence.
The utter graphic violence.
Yeah.
And also the revenge arc.
From what I know of Berserk, a lot of people were drawing comparisons between the main character Guts and Goblin Slayer, but I think at the heart of both shows, they are very different people. And I'm like, I get that they're like similar, they both went through trauma and they're dealing with it in their own ways. And I'm like, it just doesn't, they feel like completely different shows, but I think people were talking about more like the shock value of like episode 1, how it's just like, oh, so we're just
going to lay it out there.
We're just going there. But Berserk is like super violent, but I'm like, man, it just never grabbed me, but a Goblin Slayer did. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know enough about Berserk to like really get into it.
Seems like a formula that works.
Yeah.
Seems like they're following a good pattern.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
How you doing?
I wanted to ask, for beginning voice actors, looking through a bunch of tips and tricks, I find that some of the information is a little bit redundant on itself and kind of becomes common knowledge, like keeping 9 or so inches away from the microphone, doing all these other obvious precautionaries. But Goblin Slayer is a very emotional job for a voice actor, and I wanted to ask, do you have one personal tip on how to sell a character's emotion or just the character themselves?
Ooh. Go first. I can do this, but I want to think.
I'm
on
like,
this.
I have to think about it.
It's really good.
For Priestess, for Goblin Slayer, it was a big thing for me, just as an actor, something that I tell a lot of people is being very present, knowing why you're saying what you're saying, why you're doing what you're doing, like, and.
Well, but you said did I hear you correctly? You found the voice in the car. Like you were doing, where were you at when you found her voice?
Well, with her voice, for the audition, Tabitha had me read for Priestess about 5 different times.
Okay.
So we did Priestess. I think I read for like Witch and High Elf. But she kept going back to Priestess. She's like, all right, soften it a little bit, bring it higher. And she like kept pushing me. I was like, I left that audition. I'm like, that was garbage. She just kept me. I was like, well, she made me redo it a million times. And she's like, yeah. She's like, I made you redo it so much so that I knew that you were. But like once I found just her voice and just like that softness and like bringing in the warmth of her, it's just like, okay, there she is.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, man. You get, when we go in, and it might be different for other people, but you get kind of a visual of what the character looks like. You know, they'll have a picture of what the character looks like, and that's about it. Then it breaks down, you know, this is who the character is. They give you maybe a little paragraph that explains maybe a little bit of the origin, but kind of their driving, you know, what their driving force is, and a hint at low vocal range, doesn't exude very much emotion when he speaks, that kind of thing. So all you're given is a visual and a little blurb about what the producers and directors think that this character should sound like, and it's up to us to bring the rest. You know, because I mean, I read for a couple of different characters, and it's like when I got to that one fit. Like that one fit for me. It's one of those when I felt like when I walked out, I was like the only one out of the characters that resonated, that really felt like it clicked was Goblin Slayer.
Yeah,
it really
I felt
did.
that way with Priestess.
Yeah, and I mean, I've left 100 auditions where I had that same feeling and I didn't get the part. So sometimes you get lucky every now and then. I'm really lucky that was the one that they wanted me for.
Awesome. Thank you. Also, side note, Guts is based on a real life person. Is
he?
Yeah, it's this historical thing. Guts is a guy who got his hand blown off by a cannon.
Oh my
And I find it
gosh.
kind of funny how they go backwards and say it's a prosthetic arm that shoots a cannon.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know
it's
that.
good
That's
to
really
know.
cool to
Appreciate
know.
that. Thank you.
Hi. So as dark as Goblin Slayer it also actually has a lot of comedy thrown in it. So my question is do you have any favorite comedy moments from the show?
I could take this one.
Go for it.
So she bombed me in the studio one time. And what I mean by that is when we're in there, we're doing our lines that are scripted. You've got one TV here that has, has the series, has the visual, and then all of your lines are here, or vice versa, or whatever. So I'm basically just reading off the lines, and they match it, to the flaps. And I guess I don't even have it. I got the easy job. Mine's just in a helmet, so I don't even have to do anything. I just read the lines. So in the middle of a big fight scene, she bombs me by just yelling out something. It was.
I don't remember what I said.
And it was similar to just get your together, Goblin Slayer. So we were in the middle of a big battle, and we're supposed to be all serious and in character, and she just bombs this one, line. So I had to get her back.
Oh my!
Another time. So yeah, Tabitha, our director, during all that, we made time so that I could, so I could get her back,
And I screwed up my take so hard when I got your bomb because I wasn't expecting it. There's this moment he's like leaping over like a crate or something, and I think the line original is like now, or like cast the miracle or something.
Now.
And I was like, do it now. I was like,
it was hilarious to us.
So good.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah,
because I think I bombed you like early on, and I was like, can I leave a bomb for him? It's like, do you know Brad? I was like, no.
So we tried to lighten it up ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if anything was funny, it was almost just like a dull humor. It was a really almost like what would be funny is because the character and it's such a dark storyline is that it comes from that really muted humor, dry humor, more than anything else. So in the booth we had to liven it up a little bit because we were like, there are not going to be any jokes in this episode.
No, it's fine. I liked when Mallory and Mallory who plays High Elf Archer, when our characters would just yell at Goblin. Oh my God.
When y'all were drunk, y'all cracked me up. Her read was phenomenal.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Banana.
Yeah, banana.
Oh my God. I love Mallory so much. But I think it was like whenever like our characters were just yelling at Goblin Slayer, it's like, no doing this, no fire, no poison, stop waterboarding the goblins. It was so
and she
good.
kicks me down a hill like this thing just keeps. Like I can beat up these massive goblins, but this high elf archer's just kicking my ass right now.
She's the little sister.
Yeah.
She's just like, no, I'm gonna beat
She's
you.
She's how many years old? Like 300, 400, 2,000 years old?
Oh my God, I love her. I love that character so much. But yeah.
We created our own humor.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so there's that whole backstory, the side story of the epic going on with the hero defeating the demon lord.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like with all the emotions and all the struggles going on in your season story, it being a side quest, how does that make you feel?
I really I'm kind of biased about Hero, and I'll tell you why. My best friend, Rachel Thompson, plays the hero, so I'm a little biased, but I like that storyline. I think it's really interesting that they show that there's other things going on in the world outside of just Goblin Slayer, because he is just one of many adventurers. Like, he's honestly, like, in their world, he's considered essentially an NPC. Like, he's not what, like, the gods rolling the dice expected him to be, and he kind of defies all odds. So I think it's cool that we have, like, the big hero that the anime would usually be about, like, with the, like, magical sword, like the holy sword and all of this, and like her party is also super cool. I think the character designs, but I think it's really cool that we get to see different aspects. And if you are like me and you read all the manga because, you know, you get obsessed. But if you read, I think it's the year 1 manga, Goblin Slayer actually met Hiro when she was an orphan. And he actually inspired her to become an adventurer, and she ended up becoming like the hero.
I love the way you tell stories.
What?
Yeah, and I love what she's saying. It was exciting to have, it was almost like that hall that we all got together in. There were so many talented people in there, and they were all on their quests. They were all adventurers on their quests too. So it was nice that it was almost like what am I trying to say? It's like X-Men, almost like everybody had a talent.
Yeah.
Everybody had a talent, but they were all using them for different reasons. And when you would get them together, you would see all of what everybody's capable of or what their strength is. It was pretty cool.
And I think that's why like the farm arc, like at the end of the series, was so cool because you got to see everyone just like kicking butt.
Yeah, and doing what they do.
Yeah.
Like, see what their strengths are. That was cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So I actually have a question. What D&D class would either of you play? Or just fantasy class in general?
I'd like to know what you think I would play.
Ooh, I could see you playing, honestly, I'd want to see you play a bard because I feel like you kind of have like that fun energy. I don't know, but I'm like, I could see you playing definitely maybe a barbarian because those are fun, but I don't know, there's so many options. I want to stick with bard.
Okay.
I think that would be really fun.
And what about you? What's yours?
For me, I'm actually doing a campaign right now where I am playing a cleric, but I played a bard who was, in order to cast any spells, I had to speak in really bad haiku. Like I had to make up a haiku on the spot about the situation or what I wanted my spell to do. And I came up with that with my DM. And I was like, so anytime I cast, I need to make up a haiku on the spot about what I want it to do. And if it's really bad, if my roll's really bad, the haiku gets worse.
Wow.
So
I'd be exhausted.
It was so fun.
That's pretty creative. That's pretty inventive.
Yeah.
I want a game again now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another question, when you were talking about earlier about having to speak into a bucket for being in a helmet, is there any other weird things like that you've done in your voice acting career, or that you've had to do something to get a voice that they wanted? That one's pretty up there, you know, as far as just like getting just. Well, I was just like, there's an effect. Like you're Funimation. You've got a massive studio. There's no effect. You can't push a button and it sounds like, you know, it's in a helmet. No, you have to have this Christmas bucket here. You should have seen this thing. It was god awful. I was just like, how did you guys come up with this? This is the one. You know, there's one picture. I put it up on my page one day. I just took the bucket and put it over my head completely in front of the microphone. I'm like, I think I'm doing this all wrong. You know, but no, that one was pretty extreme. There was a time, and this wasn't weird. This is just something that kind of freaked me out. But I got cast to play Snake Eyes in the G.I. Joe whenever they did the video game for G.I. Joe, way back. But I was the only person that could fit in Ray Park's costume from the movie. So it was like they had to find an actor with that martial arts experience that could actually fit in the original, because they shipped the whole costume out from the set to use on this commercial. So I was like stoked because Snake Eyes I was a huge G.I. Joe Snake Eyes fan, and I get to play Snake Eyes for the video game. Well, once they started strapping me into this thing, I didn't realize I get claustrophobic. Like I'm okay, you put me in an elevator with a bunch of people, I'm fine. But when things get like strapped to me and I can't get out, and so it was like this spandex kind of thing, and then a chest piece comes around, and then they put the bracelets on, and then the gloves, and then I've got these army pants with like, you know, knee pads and stuff, and then they strap the boots on me. And the worst part was when they go to put the helmet on, the helmet clips to the chest piece, so there's about 30 connections that go front and back all the way around, so I can't get out of the helmet.
and it's just, you put it on, it connects, and then, so I've got the visor in front, and there's just 2 eyes where I can see out of, and I start to kind of overheat, and that thing starts to steam up on the visor. I'm freaking out. And they're like, okay, now we're ready for you to do some martial arts stuff. And I said, dude, here's the deal. I go, I'm going to give you everything I got for as long as I can. But when I call for you to take this helmet off, if you don't take this helmet off, I'm going to destroy this costume. I'm coming out of this thing because I'm probably going to freak out. So I did. They gave me a sword, and I did a bunch of action scenes for about maybe 30 seconds. And then I got to where I started to have like a panic attack. And they had to come over, and they had like 5 people come over and take the thing off and pull it off. I was like, I could finally breathe. And I didn't realize I was, that one surprised me. I didn't realize I was that affected by something being, on me. So like when I watch movies now and there's heavy prosthetics or something like that, where you see people underwater and they've got all this, all this gear on, I'm like, nope, I wouldn't be able to do that role. So yeah, kind of opened my eyes to what I'm limited to.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had any have to do anything like crazy. I think the weirdest thing is I think it's in Goblin Slayer, when all the gas is coming through the walls, and they had us put tissue.
Weird thing, yeah.
We were holding tissues, and I was like, I could do the shirt, but it just wouldn't work. So she was like, here, have a tissue. I was like,
see, the tissue was weird for her. I'm talking into a bucket all season.
Not all of us can play Goblin Slayer, okay?
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm afraid we are out of time, but definitely, Brad, Hayden, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of
Thank
you,
you guys.
for coming to the
Appreciate
show,
you.
asking the questions. We really appreciate it. Do you guys?